39,000 men and women who make up the United States Coast Guard, there are only 280 rescue swimmers. This is because we are the Coast Guard's elite. We are the best of the best. When storms shut down entire ports, we go out. When hurricanes ground the United States Navy, we go out. And when the Holy Lord himself reaches down from heaven and destroys his good work with winds that rip houses off the ground, we go out.
Unconscious. Swimmer inside the cabin door. Cabin door closed.
I think he just broke my nose.
And you may have killed your wife, sir. 20 minutes to Kodiak.
Roger. He's giving us CPR.
Comstate Kodiak, Coast Guard 6096. We have 2 hypothermic survivors on board. Be there in 20 minutes. Requesting to have an ambulance on scene when we land.
Got her?
Got him.
Attaway, baby!
Who's dead? Who's dead?
Morning. Kind of heavy, isn't it? I was watching that movie with my kids. They were little, and this movie's a little older. It's called The Guardian, if you want to watch a great movie. Really good movie. I'm watching this movie with my girls, and this is the opening scene, and I start to cry. They're like going, Dad doesn't usually cry in an action film. What's going on? And they said, Dad, what's going on? I said, that's the church. It just hit me. That's the church. People are going through storms in their life all the time. And they get into a situation that they didn't want to get into. They don't know how they actually got to where they're at, and they're drowning. And the church comes in and they say, listen, we can get you. Jesus can help you. He helped me. In fact, he's even helping me right now through a storm that I'm in. I'm in this with you. Let's do this together. Let's go out and let's reach people for Jesus. You guys, this church exists to help people who are drowning. We're not this like little Club Med that just hangs around the pool and like, woohoo, look at us. We're the great people in the world. We are a rescue mission. We are sent by God to help people, to let them know that Jesus is with them in the middle of a storm and he has a way out. In fact, Tina referenced the cross. We are praying right now for 1,316 people. Now, these are people we know. And I asked them to put one name on there that I put on the list, and Tina put this name on the list, because I can read all the other names, and you might look at all those names and go, not one of those people, I don't know any of them. Well, I know one of them. And when I read that name, that gets me. Because that's a person I've been praying for over 20 years. That's a person that I love. And you know, God feels like that about every one of those people. I want you to know that when you look at your neighbors or you look at a coworker and you go, man, they are in the middle of a mess. Their life is a mess. In fact, they did a lot of their own mess. And you're thinking, they deserve it. No, they don't. What they need is Jesus. They need the same thing that you and I need, and this church exists to help people have a life-giving relationship with Jesus. In fact, we had some people last month, they went out, and you might go, well, what does this look like? How do you go and rescue people? Well, we don't know where people are at. Some people are doing great. If you're doing great today, woohoo, good for you, okay? If you're just kind of working through something, okay, we're with you. We'll walk with you. Either way, you might be heading towards something. You don't even know it's coming, and guess what? We're going to walk with you. So we had some people go out, and one of our helicopters, it is our bouncy toys. And they went to President's Elementary because President's Elementary does one of those carnivals at the end of the year like all the other schools do. And we give our stuff away for free. And so some people volunteered, took the bouncy toys out there. And just like they did with the Arlington Street Fair this weekend, that was pretty cool. And they're going to do it at the Glen Eagle Days up at the golf course there for that neighborhood. Well, the teacher of the kindergartners was so touched, she had her kids, thank you guys. Isn't that cool? And so I got this in the mail. I'm like, I got to share this with the church. Because here's the deal. Every one of those teachers at President's Elementary and the administrators and the principal and everybody there knows that Life Church 360 cares about them. And when they're going through something, which statistics tell us that the number one reason people go to church is because of a crisis. It's usually a death in the family. There's only one or two good reasons people even start going to church. All the others are negative. And it's because they're in the middle of a storm and they want help through the storm. So we're doing that all the time. We've got an opportunity coming up here in August. We're going to be doing our teen summer camp. And Tina and I, we have been doing summer camps since we were in high school. And we always take our boat and we take it to the kids and we just share our boat. I'm not a cabin leader. I can't handle that anymore. I've got about 4 hours of youth ministry left in me, so you better use it sparingly, okay? So what I do is I just bring my boat, and we share our boat with the kids, and we take them surfing. Our boat's a surf boat, so we surf. Other people tow tubes, are water skiers, and we have a blast. And we have over 80 kids going on this thing right now. By the time we get there, there'll be well over 100 kids going on this trip. We have 3 ski boats, and we need more. If you want to share your stuff, I promise you we won't put you in a cabin with kids, okay? We'll even feed you separate from them if you want to. And you can dry boat. It is the funnest time. And here's the deal. We have kids going through storms right now. And to have an adult that comes alongside them that says, I love you, I care about you, I want to help you. In fact, even we need cooks right now. You don't have to stay with kids, but we need cooks. Maybe you love to cook. And we just want to see this thing be the greatest experience of a kid's life because that's what they're going to remember. That's what's going to change them from the inside out. And so we're going. It's going to be awesome. If you want to go, you can go. We're actually in this series right now called All Hands on Deck. And there's a little card on your seat that you can invite a friend about the book of James. And what we're doing is going through the book of James. And what we're saying is all hands on deck because James is saying everybody needs to be in on this. He's the brother of Jesus. Stephen did a great job last week opening up the book of James. If you missed the message, get it online. It's a great message. And he talked about how James, the little brother of Jesus, opens the book of James saying, I'm a slave of the Lord Jesus Christ. Could you imagine saying you're the slave of any one of your siblings? No way, okay? But if it was Jesus, okay, maybe, because Jesus is like Jesus. So James realizes Jesus is Jesus, and he follows him, and he writes this book. And I don't know, have you ever read the book of James? Anybody? Okay, this book is so faith-forming. Okay, like I remember when I read this book for the very first time, and it just rocked my world. You're going to love this thing because it's about practical living out your faith. And when we were looking at this, we thought, okay, we've been praying for these 1,316 people. Our church exists to give people a life-giving relationship with Jesus. What are we going to do this summer that would be a really great series that everybody could kind of latch on to? And if you miss a week because you're on vacation, you won't feel like you got left out. And like, how can we really help people grow in their faith? Like, the book of James is amazing. Let's go through the book of James. And let's call everybody into action and be all hands on deck and say, this is how we live out our life so that the 1,316 people that we're praying for, which, by the way, we could add to that. If you didn't get to do anything on that, just write their names right there in the prayer card, and we will add them to the list, first names only. And we're going to be the people that they would look at our life and they'd say, your life's not perfect. I know it's not perfect because I know you. And not everything in your life goes excellent in the way you want it, but there's something about you. Wouldn't it be cool if people said there's something about that Life Church 360 crowd? I actually have a friend who came to Christ because he moved to Coeur d'Alene, and we plant this church in Coeur d'Alene. And he moved there. He's a financial advisor guy. And he said this. He said, everybody I met that I liked and everybody that I met that I wanted to hang out with, they all went to this church. So I thought I'd come. And he came to our church, and then he went on a mission trip, and then he gave his life to Jesus, and his whole life changed. Wouldn't it be great if people out in Arlington, they went, everybody I meet from that church, there's something about them. They're happier. Their life seems to be going better. And even in the middle of storms, they're doing okay. Well, James gives us advice on how to do that. So we're going to dive in. James chapter 1, 2 through 18. We're going to read that together, and then we're going to digest it together. So here we go. I'm reading from the New Living Translation. Dear brothers and sisters, when... Good word, okay? We could preach right there. When troubles of any kind come your way, consider an opportunity for great joy. Who is this guy, and how does he open up a book with that? I mean, I'm done reading, right? Like, that's lame. For you know that when your faith is tested, your endurance has a chance to grow. So let it grow. For when your endurance is fully developed, you will be perfect and complete. Anybody up for that one? Okay? Needing nothing. I'd love that too. If you need wisdom, ask our generous God. He'll give it to you. He will not rebuke you for asking, but when you ask him, be sure that your faith is in God alone. Do not waver, for a person with divided loyalty is as unsettled as a wave of the sea. It's blown and tossed by the wind. Such people should not expect to receive anything from the Lord. Their loyalty is divided between God and the world, and they're unstable in everything they do. Believers who are poor have something to boast about, for God has honored them, and those who are rich should boast that God has humbled them. They will fade away like a little flower in the field. The hot sun rises and grass withers. The little flower drops and falls, and its beauty fades away. In the same way, the rich will fade away with all of their achievements. He's saying, don't trust your money either. God blesses those who patiently endure testing and temptation. Afterward, they'll receive the crown of life that God has promised to those who love him. And remember, when you're being tempted, do not say, God is tempting me. God is never tempted to do wrong, and he never tempts anyone else. Temptation comes from our own desires, which entice us and drag us away. These desires give birth to sinful actions, and when sin is allowed to grow, it gives birth to death. So don't be misled, my dear brothers and sisters. Whatever is good and perfect is a gift coming down to us from God our Father, who created all the lights in the heavens. He never changes or casts a shifting shadow. He chose to give birth to us by giving us his true word. And we, out of all creation, became his prized possession. So we're going nautical. We're talking all hands on deck. Everybody representing Jesus out in our world that's going through all kinds of stuff. Even in the midst of our stuff, we're going to help them through their stuff. And we decided, since it's a nautical theme, we're going to use nautical terms for every one of the sermons. And there's 10 segments in the book of James. There's 2 to each chapter. And we're going to go through each one of them, and we're going to give it a nautical name. And today the message is called Between the Devil and the Deep Blue Sea. So when a sailor is in trouble and they're out in the middle of the raging sea, they will say, I am between the devil and the deep blue sea. It's like saying, I'm between a rock and a hard place. Okay, I don't see a way out. This is trouble, and I am in the middle of it. And James says, when your loyalty is caught between God and the world, you're unstable in all that you do. You ever feel like when you're in a storm that you're just being driven like a wave in the wind? Like it's the storm is driving you instead of you driving through the storm. There's a big difference between you driving through the storm of your life and the storm driving you. And James says, when your loyalty is divided, that's how you feel. That's what's happening in your life. So what does it mean to be caught between this loyalty of God and this loyalty in the world? What is the difference there? And we're going to need to digest this thing to answer that question. We're going to need to look at it pretty closely. So if you're taking notes, and I want to encourage you, be a note taker. We give you these notes in your program so that you'll remember the message beyond lunch. And so that you, in fact, tonight, turn to the person you came with today and say, what was the message about? See if they remember. Okay, so you're going to get a test tonight, so you better take notes. Here we go. Number 1, you will. That's not the fill in the blank because that's the circle. Circle will. Okay, you will navigate many, there's your fill in the blank, stormy seas on the open waters of life. We've all experienced it. Like life is great, the water's flat, the sun is out, you're enjoying, this is a beautiful day, I love boating, I love life, I'm having a great time, and all of a sudden, like the clouds blow in, and the wind takes over, and the sea begins to rage, and everything's blowing around, and you button down the hatches, and all hands on deck, let's get through the storm. James says, you're going to have storms. You're going to go through storms. When troubles of any kind. And then he says, but they're not all bad. In fact, when you go through a storm, consider it joy. That there could be joy found in the middle of trouble. Now, what I have discovered in my life is I'm either working my way through a storm, okay? I'm either heading into another storm, okay? Or I'm in the middle of the storm. Wherever you're at, just remember, there's going to be storms. And what's really kind of crazy is, like Tina was mentioning, like, we have a kind of a storm right here in our life, but the rest of it's great. It's like, you ever notice how you can have like a squall going on over here, like your whole life's not turned inside out, but there's always seems to be something going on, and what do you do with those storms, and how do you work your way out? Now, a lot of people, when storms happen, what they do is they spend time asking why. Why is this happening? Who is to blame? Who's liable for this storm? Is it me? Is it somebody else? And we almost always find somebody else. Other people, they'll go, why me? Why us? Why would so-and-so have this problem? I mean, these are such good people. Why would such bad things happen to such a good person? It's an interesting question to ask. A better question is, why not me? But some people, they do that, right? Another person, they just fall. As soon as trouble happens, they fall on their knees and they just go, God, take me out of the storm. God, get me out. I need help. And these people are looking for a way out. And if God doesn't lift them out, they'll find their own way out. They're not willing to go through the storm. They just want out of the storm. And oftentimes, the reason why James talks about temptation in this passage is oftentimes people's way out is they're in the middle of a storm and they make it worse by doing something that's going to hurt them or hurt other people to alleviate their pain. And they think it's a way out, but it's not a way out. Other people, and I would call these wise people, they see it as an opportunity. This is an opportunity for me to grow. This is an opportunity for me to build something that is absolutely vital in my life. Wise parents, they know when their kids are going through a storm, this is a great opportunity for my kid to build something that the kid needs more than anything else. God doesn't want you to run a sprint and go, look at me, I just did the 100-yard dash in 10 seconds flat. The race of life is a long-distance deal. And you will need endurance. We're a real active family. We love to do sports and we love to be outside. And the only way you can be active is if you're in shape. You got to be, and I'm not saying we're in perfect shape, but we got to work at this thing because the older we get, the worse it is. And my kids, they'll work out. And we've got this little workout room down next to our garage, and it's our sweat room, okay? And the kids will come up the stairs like, oh, my legs are killing me. I'm like, good. That's all. No, Dad, you don't understand. It hurts. Good. That's good. Why am I saying it's good? How do you build endurance? Resistance. No resistance, no endurance. When you go through a storm in your life, what can happen is you can build life muscles. Your kids can build life muscles, and they're vital to your existence. If you don't build these, you will not have the life you want. What will happen is you'll spend all your time in front of a TV or on social media wishing you had the life that everybody else had. But they really don't have it either. It's just fictitious. Instead of, I'm going to build muscle. I'm going to have the strength I need to have the life that I really, really want. Trials are not all bad. There are good things that happen. And the last thing you want to do is rescue somebody out of their problem, or you yourself be rescued out of every problem. The last thing you want to do is just find the quickest way out, because I promise you, the quickest way out is not the good way out. It's not. It's not a good thing to just say, I'm going to get out of this thing. I don't want to feel this anymore. Trials aren't bad. You grow personally, spiritually, emotionally, and physically through resistance. Point number 2. God will lead you through the trial in his wisdom. The fill in the blank is through. If you want to take some time and doodle around the word through, do it, because you need to remember, God will take you through the trial. Now, I have prayed for God to rescue me. I'm like anybody else. I look for a way out. I'll talk more about that in a little bit. But I pray for rescue, and sometimes God just rescues you out, right? Very rarely, though. You know, most of the time God does? He does what every great sailor already knows. Last week, one of our Navy veterans gave us a Connect card back. He goes, I love the nautical theme. Navy guy, right? So I love the nautical theme. And he said this. He said, whenever a hurricane comes, the boat never stays in port. The boat never stays at anchor. The boat never rests on the buoy. What does the captain do? Buttons down the hatches, all hands on deck. We're heading straight into the heart of the hurricane. Why? Because the boat will have more damage in port. The boat and the people will suffer more damage. And what James says is if you're smart, you'll say, God, give me wisdom to help have you get me through this. Now, there's some people, when they're going through a storm, they'll say, well, forget God. It's kind of interesting to me that somebody is in a storm, they'll say, forget God. I'm mad at God, I don't like God. That's like kicking the captain off the boat when you need him the most. Like, it just doesn't make any sense to me to say, well, God, because God is the one that has the wisdom. And what God will do is he'll take the helm of your life. The helm is the steering wheel of a boat, if you didn't know that, okay? And he'll take it and he'll say, now watch. No, God, you're turning into the storm. Yep. That's where we're going. We're going right into this thing because the bow is a lot stronger than you think it is. You have more strength than you think you have. You can do all things through Christ who gives you strength. The Apostle Paul said that in Philippians 4:13, that you can do this, and if you stick with me, I will lead you through this storm. I got to tell you, if you're in a relationship storm right now, I can't think of anything more you need than wisdom. Right? I mean, Tina and I are not in a relationship storm, but we have this relationship storm brewing over here. It's like, God, help us, give us wisdom. If you're raising children, okay, you get it. If you're in a financial bind, you need wisdom. Really, I mean, if you're in a health situation, you need wisdom. You know, you and I are going to run into all kinds of issues with people, even at church. It's really amazing when someone goes through a hard time at church that they like go, well, the church just is awful. The church is just people. And every one of us would look in the mirror and go, not perfect. So just look at your neighbor and go, not perfect. You can just look at them right now, not perfect. You're going to go through something with them. And we're just going to work it out. We're going to need God's wisdom. And I want you to think about this for a second. We have a captain who knows all of the wisdom of the past. Not your past, all the past. We have a captain that knows all the wisdom of the present. Now, here's what's amazing about the trial that I'm in. I only see the waves that are in front of me. He sees all of them. He knows everything about the trial you're in, even the part that you did. He knows it all. He has all the wisdom, and he has all the wisdom of the future. In fact, the scriptures say that he leads us into green pastures, a place of rest. And that would be where the water is flat, if you want to use a nautical metaphor. He knows where that water is. But you have to trust him and say, okay, God, you know the way through. What I have seen in my life is he turns my bow into the wave, and he sails with me. He will guide you. But, it's a very big but. And we're going to close right here. When you trust God for wisdom, if you're asking God for wisdom, God, give me your wisdom, and you're saying, God, I trust you. In this storm, I trust you. James says, don't trust something else. You can write something, anything, anyone, money. Don't trust anything but God. He says if you do, you're wavering. If you feel like, man, this thing is just taking over my life and I just don't have any bearings on my life. I just don't even know which way I'm going to go. Give it to him, and he'll drive you through it rather than you be driven by it. When I don't trust God alone, I waver. Now, there's two areas of your life that if you can master these two areas, you will master most all of them, is my experience. They're the two areas that the Bible talks about most other than God's love for us, if you look at the whole Bible of Scripture. But even these topics are mentioned more than love. Anybody want to guess what they are? Romance and finance. These are the two biggest troubles. And I've been around the world. It's not just an American problem. This has been all over, which is why Scripture talks about it. It's been talking about it forever. If you can trust God in romance and finance, you'll make it through just about any storm. I remember at 9-year mark, Tina and I, we had our second baby. And so we had 2 little girls, and I was in a work situation that was a nightmare. It was church, and it was a nightmare, okay? And I was miserable, and I would go to work, and I'd be miserable. And I was working all kinds of hours, and I'd go home, and Tina had postpartum depression after her second baby. She was miserable. So I'd go to work and be miserable. I'd go home and be miserable. Life was miserable. And this was going on for months and months, now a year. Now, it's like, this is awful. Now, here's what I know about the human heart. We want to escape trouble. So I had an idea. Now, I'm a pastor, okay? I was a pastor then. I'm a pastor today. Pastors don't get divorced. So here's my thought. I thought, you're going to live in that room, and I'm going to live in that room, and don't talk to me anymore. I even said that to her. I'm done. I don't want to talk to you anymore. I don't want to hear your garbage. I'm done. Well, we hadn't executed the plan yet, but we were getting close. And one day I was coming up on a day off. I hadn't had a day off in almost a month. And my sweet wife said to me, what do you want to do on your day off? Now, have you ever been hurt by somebody and you want to hurt them back? Anybody been there? They've hurt you, so you're going to hurt them. Just you want to get them. It's time to jab them. And I wanted to hurt her. So I looked at my wife and I said, nothing with you. You're the last person I want to be with. And the moment I did it, she began to tear up. And I could see I hurt her. So in shame, I looked away. And as I looked away, there was a light switch on the wall. I walked out of the room, and the light switch would not leave me. I walked down the stairs, and I kept thinking about the light switch. I sat down in my chair. I turned on the TV, and I couldn't stop thinking about the light switch. And the Lord said to me, and I believe with all my heart, God put this in my heart. He said, son, you could turn the light on, or you could turn the light off. Because you know what happens to a marriage when one sleeps in the other room and the other one in that room? They don't talk to each other? Not good things. And see, I know Scripture because I've studied Scripture. I've been to Bible college, and I know Jeremiah 17:9 says, the human heart is the most deceitful of all things and desperately wicked. Who really knows how bad it is? And my heart was telling me, get away from that girl. She is misery. You need a happy place. Go find a happy place, because this is not a happy place. I was already thinking, man, the kids would be better off. How many of you said that one? I'd be better off. She'd be better off. This is the wrong situation. All of this stuff was going on. And God says you can turn it on or you can turn it on. Now, I know the right answer. I know Ephesians Chapter 5. I've been there. A lot of you ladies are going, I hate Ephesians Chapter 5 because Ephesians Chapter 5 says that you're supposed to submit to your husbands. But by the way, husbands, if you read it, in verse 21, it says that both of us are supposed to submit to each other out of reverence for Jesus. Not out of reverence for each other, out of reverence for Jesus. Why would I submit to my wife? Because out of reverence for Jesus. Why would she submit to me? Out of reverence for Jesus. And then it says for her to submit to me, and then it tells me to love her like Christ loved the church and gave up his life for her. No, I didn't want to give up my life for her. I wanted her to give up her life for me. So I married her. I wanted her to make me happy, like everybody else that gets married. But I knew the right thing to do. So I walked upstairs, and I said, I'm sorry, what do you want to do? You know what my wife chose to do that day? One of my favorite things, go look at classic cars. On Father's Day, which was just a couple of months after this event, she presented this picture to me. This hangs in my office. There's two little girls that were about to have their foundation of their life rocked. There's one little girl not pictured there because she hadn't been conceived, and she wouldn't even exist today had I enacted my plan. And on that day, that's my favorite car. It's a Shelby Cobra. It's a kit car, but it's my favorite car. And somebody sinfully painted it purple. It's in the Bible. It's the worst sin there is. But what's crazy is that's Jaylee's favorite color when she was a little girl, and that's my favorite car. And you might go, and they lived happily ever after. No, it was misery for another 2 years. Years. We prayed through, and the Lord kept saying, turn it on. Turn it on, son. You're stronger than you think you are. You can do all things through Christ who strengthens you. And you guys, we've been through. I'm open with you guys. We had no problem telling people when we have problems. We've been to counseling while we pastored this church. Okay, it's not a big deal. It's cheaper than a divorce. It's way better. Right now, it's like a love affair. It's wonderful. Like we just love it when the kids are gone. It's great. We're like, leave, please. We're looking forward to just being together again by ourselves. We're going on vacation. We're excited. But this is what your relationship will do. That the Father, in his wisdom, he will lead you. He will guide you if you will trust him and no one else. You guys all know you go through financial stuff, right? Boy, the Lord taught us early. He really taught us early because here we were. We had been married just a very, very short time. And when we got married, I had back surgery and I couldn't work. And so when they shut the whole thing off with the state, we were really stuck. And we went through this really, really rocky thing, and I've told that story before, and we got through that, and life got better, and my back got better. I started water skiing, and I used to compete water skiing. I love to water ski. It's my favorite thing to do. And my friend had this ski nautique, and it was only 2 years old, and it was just, I coveted that thing. Oh, when the Bible says don't covet, I know what covet feels like. Covet feels so good. Oh, covet's so warm when you just want, I'm behind that boat just going, oh, that's the sexiest thing I've ever seen. Ski nautique. I just love that thing. I just wanted it so bad. And one day my friend says, man, we're in hard times and we can't pay the payment. If you take the payment, we'll give you the boat. I'm like, you are kidding me. This has got to be from the Lord, right? This has got to be God. No down payment. I'll take it. And I couldn't get a loan for it. Why? Because I didn't have that much credit yet. I was just a kid. And that must have been God too, because I just got his loan until I could get my own loan. I mean, the Lord is working. And I took this boat. I didn't even ask Tina. You can see why our marriage had problems. And so I went home. And now we had a 10-year loan at $285 a month in 1992. That's like $600 a month now. Anybody want their husband to come home and say, honey, guess what I got? The Lord gave us a deal. $600 a month deal. It's great, baby. That's what I did. I know, I'm so smart. I'm brilliant. And my wife was just freaking out, but I'm like, I had my boat, and we went skiing, and life was just really great, and it was just awesome. And I left Bible college because all I wanted to do was water ski anyway, and the church is such a bummer, and they never make any money in church, and so I'll just do it for free. And I thought, oh, all set. God's like, no, son, I called you to ministry. And if you will trust me, I will provide for you. And so I said, okay, God, I'll go back to school. And I got this job as a part-time youth pastor. So I'm part-time junior high pastor at this church. And our income dropped in half. I was making $2,850 a month. That was our combined income. Our budget, when we did our budget, we were short $285 a month. And we ran so close to the line back then, it was like ridiculous, right? I mean, like our budget was just like, we had no margin. My tithe on $2,850 is how much? You guys can do math, $285. We're short $285, the boat payment's $285, the tithe is $285. Tina and I have always tithed. Because in Malachi it says, if you do tithe, he'll take care of you. Your stuff will last longer. He'll bless your income. He'll bless your life. He'll take care of you. But we were short, and I was tempted to stop tithing. You know, that's one area that nobody will even know. So God, I'm not going to do it. I thought that for about a half a second. And I went to Malachi. I said, no, you promised. So we kept tithing. For 4 months, we went $285 on our credit card. $285. After 4 months, the executive pastor, Barry Crane, pulls me into his office, and he says, Matt, the board met last night. I'm like, oh, maybe I don't have a job anymore. He said, the board has decided to give you, and he didn't say 20%, it was more than 20%, a $285 a month raise. Okay, let's just review. My tithe is $285. I'm short $285. Okay, right? The boat payment's $285. It's not God's fault that I bought a boat. That's my fault. And I laughed. He said, what's up? I told him the story. He goes, we would have never let you do that. Why didn't you tell us? We would have paid you more. I'm like, well, just pay me more. You could still pay me more. But you know what? You're like going, I know the end of this story. They paid that boat off. They still have it. No, that was 6 boats ago. You guys know me. Actually, we had to sell the boat. And the day I sold it, I wrote a check for $500 to my bank. Because I was only $500 upside down. Any of you buy something that's depreciating, you know what upside down is. It's when you owe more than it's worth. I delivered it to the guy's house. It became his 16-year-old son's boat. He had 3 wood boats in his garage living on a lake, and I delivered my boat, and I thought, you're kidding me. But you know what? We made a decision. We don't pay payments on cars. We don't pay payments on boats. We don't pay payments on any depreciating assets. Because that's being servant to the lender, which is what Proverbs 22:7 says. Just as the rich rule the poor, so the borrower is servant to the lender. And I hate that feeling. I got a reminder in my phone. It comes up every day at 10 a.m. and it says, I am happier when I'm debt-free. It just reminds me. Don't do that. And the Lord has shown me how to make money. I couldn't trust him for $18,000 when I was 21 years old, 22 years old. But today I can trust him for anything. This last year we wrote a check for a boat that would feel like that back then. But the Lord helped me make the money. I'm telling you, if you trust him, he'll help you. But if you trust him and go, yeah, God, that's a great idea, but this little part, this one right here, it's going to take too long. So that's too hard, too long. So I like your idea. We're going with the whole, salvation thing, but this part over here, I'm going to just do my way. Yeah, we're going to go with the whole love thing, but that whole, love her like the church, that's just too hard. And so, no. That's what happens. And so James isn't getting up going, that person shouldn't expect anything from the Lord. That's not what he's saying. He's saying, don't get yourself in this mess. And he closes in verse 12. God blesses those who patiently, say the word patiently. I hate that word. Endure testing and temptation. Afterward, they will receive the crown of life that God has promised to those who love him. Can I just remind you this is a temporary place? I'm running a race for a crown that's not here. Not for a ski nautique, not for a surf boat, not for a car, not for a house, not for some love affair. I'm running a race for the crown of eternity. And I want to encourage you today. Got a little saying. Hope you remember the message. Come what may, just stick and stay. With God's wisdom, you will find your way. And as the ushers come up and receive tithes and offerings right now, I did it on purpose at the end of this message. Not to convince you to give. If you're brand new, thank you for coming. Let the baskets go by. We're so glad you came. But I do want to challenge those of you who call this your church home. How you doing with romance? How you doing with finance? How you doing with everything in between? Why don't we pray, stop and ask God and just pray for his wisdom and say, now I'm only going to trust you. So Father, we bow and we want you to know that we love you and we're so thankful for you. And I pray, God, for anyone here today who they realize they've got divided loyalty. God, I've realized that so many times in my life, and you have helped me. You bring me back to the right path. I pray, Father, for anybody who's like, there's just some stuff in my life where I trust you with some things, but not other things, and maybe even more than I'm talking about today. But I pray, God, that you would help each and every one of us to say, God, I want to trust you. I realize you are the captain and you have the wisdom, and I need you, and I need your wisdom. So God, please guide me through. In Jesus' name, amen. God bless you guys.